how did you get into you got a fragrance now? Like that's uncommon for someone to have their own cologne, and you're also involved in a TRT clinic as well, right?
Yeah. So for me, it was very much as I progressed online, there was a lot of stuff that I used that I was recommending to people because it was stuff I felt useful enough to spend my money on, was either benefiting my life in some capacity or had some utility, or was something I'd been using for years already, like before, I had ever even made a piece of content. And that kind of stuff, it's the most natural segue into how are you going to monetize, well, the stuff that I believe in and use already, and if I can somehow improve on that, or I don't know, offer something that I feel there's a hole in the market for, by all means, lean into that. So for me, any vertical I've gone down has very much been aligned with stuff that is highly interesting to me and I otherwise, resonate with and know can be scalable because I'm actually interested in it and continuously further educate myself on, or am passionate enough about it that I feel it's imparting value on the audience when they use it themselves.
Have you gotten yourself into any businesses where you weren't that interested, or have you thought about a bunch of different ideas and then you're like, I don't think that's good because I probably just won't give a fuck about that in 3 or 4 years?
I guess fortunately, most the stuff I do has been pretty aligned with exactly. That's why I try to be a bit more dialed on the amount of stuff I start. Like I don't want to start something and half-ass the shit out of it. So I have only a couple things and I try to pour most of my mental resources into that. So for me, dietary supplements has been, I'm continuously further educating myself and trying to mainly on the cognitive enhancement space. We started with a nootropic formula before we ever got into the workout stuff with the pre-workouts and the protein and whatnot. All stuff I used and bought anyways, but I was very, very interested in the nootropic side of things, cognitive enhancement, increasing memory formation, information retention, mental clarity, sharpness, etc. So that's where that kind of scaled out. And then on the preventative medicine side of things, that is where Marek Health kind of was very aligned with what I was doing. It's I'd seen so many bodybuilders fuck themselves up, or even me wishing I knew more about this stuff going into it and had high quality medical oversight, wasn't getting shunned by doctors or judged. Because that's, a big thing people deal with in this industry too, is judgmental doctors who will shun you for just wanting to be proactive about your health to avoid having a heart attack or whatever. And just my frustrations too with my own family trying to get help. And even if my mom's 60 years old, trying to get a basic assessment or just see where her cardiovascular health is, even though she hasn't had a heart attack yet, I would very much like to see, is there anything that is building up insidiously on the back end that we could get in front of, and she needs to change her diet or her lifestyle or something accordingly. But if you don't literally have a heart attack happening right in front of their face, oftentimes they won't let you. Yeah. So I've become very passionate about the preventative medicine side of things and being proactive about avoiding getting to that disease state and optimizing your quality of life, health, vitality, etc.
Does that seem to be getting a little bit better here in the United States, do you feel? And in Canada?
Fortunately, you can pay for a lot of stuff out of pocket here, which I do like. They don't, in Canada, oftentimes, even when you try to pay for something, they'll tell you no, which is wild. Because it's wow. Yeah. So I guess it's such a burden to the system in some places that not only is it not going to be covered by the free healthcare, but even if you want to pay for it yourself, they'll be like, no, you can't. Sorry. Wow. You don't need it because I know better than you.
I think
get out of my office.
It needs to be stated that Marek is not just a fucking steroid
I was about
farm.
to say that. It's
like,
not
yeah,
a
like
TRT clinic.
Yeah, when we call it a TRT clinic, like I almost cringe a little bit because I know what people's perception of TRT clinics are.
I'll tell you from my experience, like I have thyroid issues and I don't know if that is genetic. Like it runs in does it run off the top of your head?
Could be autoimmune.
So like, I have autoimmune issues in my family. And like I did bloods like a long time ago, and the doctor, the general doctor was like, well, this looks a little concerning, but we can do something about it or not. And, as I'm getting older, like I don't know, I want to do something, just get more in touch with what's going on. My sleep sucks. A lot of things I'm having issues with. So I did the Marek blood test, and it was like a seriously full scale. I know that you guys have them as a sponsor. I don't know.
I've got my blood work done multiple times.
14 vials, basically determining like full scale, like thyroid, even like DHT, and like so many things that would never be considered. Also, on top of that, the onboarding process, basically with, I had a woman who I talked to, she like explained to me like how much more in depth this is than like any blood test you've ever had before. And then Derek also said it's like over half of your clients don't even.
Yeah, we have a big chunk of our patients that aren't on TRT. Like oftentimes people just assume like you go in, you're going to be put on TRT. It's not the case whatsoever.
Yeah, like the doctors are going to be like, they're not gonna avoid it if they can, right? Or
yeah, like you would be evaluating natural interventions first that are if it's warranted to go down the, like you might just have, you know, perpetually high cortisol levels from having fucked up sleep or whatever it is, and it's on the back end screwing up your, you know, gonadotropin output, which leads to low tests. But you think because you have a 300 test, like, oh, I need TRT and I feel like shit. It's like, well, what about all the other stuff in your life?
Power Project family, shut your fucking mouth. We've been talking about breathing through your nose and nasal breathing during your sleep for the past 5 years. That's why we've partnered with Hostage Tape. It's the best tape on the market, sticks to your face even if you have a beard. So head to hostagetape.com/Power Project and you'll be able to get a year's supply of tape for 55 cents a day. That shit saves you $150. It's a no-brainer. Links in the description and the podcast show notes. Enjoy the show.
So like think about what we've heard, like horror stories from doctors, basically being like, you walk in and they just want to sling some pill at you because they can get a decent paycheck from whatever company they're working with.
Circling back quick, sorry to interrupt, but I just don't want to forget. Like one of the motivations too was doctors, they can only learn so much in multiple areas.
Yeah.
So going down like the hyper niche of hormone replacement or I don't know, like comprehensive thyroid analysis, it's not necessarily something that your family doctor will be well versed enough in. So when I was speaking about my frustration with doctors, it's like there are a lot of amazing doctors that do great things, but you can't expect them to know full scale everything. So for us, it's more so finding doctors that align with our niche of what we focus on, and we vetted them that they stay up to date on the current literature and don't just rely on their, you know, their MD from fucking 20 years ago or whatever. And they're very, very passionate about continuing to educate themselves on the specific area too. So like we don't touch a lot of stuff that a family doctor would, obviously, but the stuff that we are passionate about and we make sure we have that in-depth knowledge, like that's our bread and butter. And that's why we exist. And why I'm so passionate about it is because some of that stuff, like I very much have experience. Like even my first girlfriend ever, she had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And I remember going to multiple doctors with her and they kept telling her she was fine, even though she was like cold all the time, hair was falling out, had like all these brutal issues that were, I was like, on the surface, this looks like you're hypothyroid. And I just couldn't wrap my head around what was going on because I would see her TSH levels. And in Canada, if your TSH levels fall within a certain range, they don't look at anything else. Okay, you need to have a fucked up TSH and then a fucked up T4 to even look at your T3, and then they won't even look at your thyroid globulin antibodies, your TPO, thyroid peroxidase, I think it's TPO antibodies. They won't look at some of these more in-depth markers because it just they don't even go that far as to either warrant it from the free healthcare perspective, or they otherwise don't think it's warranted because the preliminary markers aren't representative of what is like so blatantly fucked up to even justify the other things. I forget which marker it was that was sky high, but I think her TPO antibodies were like through the roof once we actually got the full scale testing done. But she had gone like a year of getting told she was fine because her TSH levels on paper looked okay. And like that was frustrating because I saw her suffering for a year straight with an autoimmune issue that she didn't know it was like inside her body. It was like her immune system was attacking her thyroid gland essentially the entire time. And I was like, damn, you know, like that would have been ideal if we had somebody who listened and really pushed for that more elaborate testing. And I don't know if that's a detriment of the free healthcare where it's, you know, they try to be as limited as possible of where they allocate the available budget. And for a young woman who otherwise seems like they should be healthy, you know, maybe we're not going to test anything.
But even if she wanted to pay, they wouldn't let her pay.
Yeah,
right?
But we also didn't even know about that stuff to look further.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would you even be looking for antibodies when you have a normal TSH? Like that kind of thing is not well known.
Go ahead.
No, it's just like some of the autoimmune stuff is like new, I don't know, new generation education, I guess. And it's not very well understood why it's happening, what's going on, why is your body attacking itself?
Yeah.
Like it's not common. So
got to go on a carnivore diet.
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess it depends. But anyway, like if Marek Health existed back then, I could have, got her like a full-scale thyroid panel and seen like a major red flag immediately. Or you could otherwise see the representation of slowly deteriorating biomarkers that aren't reflective of somebody who has the same thyroid health month to month. And you can see it like slowly like petering away in function. And if you had like somebody who was actually really, really focused on digging into that, they might have been able to flesh out and interpret the blood work and say like, oh, maybe this is why your body temperature is like chronically low.
And have you guys adjusted the actual reference ranges? Because like when you go to a hospital, reference ranges are at a certain level for where most of the population is. Do you guys have adjusted reference ranges for like testosterone and other things where it should be ideally?
Yeah, so we go by the reference ranges of the LabCorp or the Quest, but we will often have our own unique interpretation of what we deem to be reflective of, in general, what we'd like to see in an optimized state for that specific individual, and then kind of use that context to relate targeted recommendations. But it's still somewhat vague until you actually get to talk to a provider and get like a more informed assessment. It's kind of just creating a picture that you can then kind of extrapolate out certain informed, educated assessments about things, but to actually dial in on a specific recommendation, you need that, I don't know, like targeted oversight that kind of understands exactly what's going on at all levels. Because you could have a low test or even a normal test, but your free test is low because your SHBG is high, because your liver's stressed out, because you're doing this and that. Like there's like a bunch of different stuff that goes into it.
I love it. I think it's great. And something I've shared for quite some time is I think people should treat themselves like athletes, treat yourself like a professional athlete. So there might be a cost associated with getting some of these tests done, but it makes you feel incredible because you have a whole team of people that are like combing through your blood work, and they're saying, hey, you might need these vitamins and you might need more sleep, or, what's your day like? It looks like you're maybe a little more stressed than you might think. And there's a lot of stuff that you can just go through. Exercise, diet. We know how powerful all of these things are. And maybe just with some intervention from people that know what they're doing and that know how to read your blood work and check the hormones. I mean, again, there might be a cost associated with it, but like, what if it changes your life?
Yeah.
What if you drop 20 pounds and feel better, and now you've feel like you're 25 when you're 45.
Yeah. And even assessing like why, even from the TRT side of things, why, if you actually need it, finding out why you need it. Like, is it that you have inadequate signaling from your brain to your testes, or is it your testes are literally like functionally damaged and are unresponsive? Because there's a difference between, are you a candidate because no matter how much your brain is signaling to them, they're just not going to respond. And at that point, you could probably never recover, where even if you're trying to optimize the natural things, if you have like primary hypogonadism and your testicles are just like suboptimally functioning or lack thereof entirely, there's some of that stuff, it will very, very much impact what a actual informed assessed recommendation might be. Because maybe you might not need TRT, maybe you just need to dial in certain things, or even kick things back in with certain drugs that might otherwise not be lifelong reliance on exogenous testosterone. Like, it would be very worthwhile to understand like why it's low, what factors could have led to it, and if it's something you can fix naturally through lifestyle changes, dietary manipulation, sleep hygiene improvements, etc., versus just haphazardly jumping on shit.
Hey, I know you guys enjoyed the video, so like, comment, subscribe, and head to the Power Project Discord below. Talk to y'all later.